Hi, it's Wednesday. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked. As usual, we have a few gremlins in the system, which is why I think our friends at the other end of our virtual wheeled sofa appear not to be able to speak and I'm looking rather puzzled. I might just pop you off the
No,
screen.
we're good now. We're good
Oh,
now.
you're good now. Brilliant. We can only
Very
see
weird
half your
that
face, though.
you appeared before the music happened.
Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
we
We did.
did.
So, if you want to get yourself properly in the picture, guys, I'm going to go and try again to welcome you all to Together Unlocked. We're produced, as always, by Together 2012. We're a disabled led arts organisation in the main London 2012 host borough of Newham. With me in my studio today is our chair, the artist and documenter Julie Newman. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as Ju90, and I'm the artistic director. We'll come back to us for some audio description in a minute, but before that, I'm going to go over and let the guys, if you finished fiddling with your cameras, introduce yourselves and give us a bit of audio description too.
Yeah, hello. Sorry, yet again, it's come on differently to how it was when we blooming checked. Not to worry. So, good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, and I am still Robin Surgeonator, Business Director of Together 2012, up here in the West Midlands at the not quite at the other end of our very long metaphorical sofa. Today, I have still got grey and silvery hair with some flecks of something that keeps appearing strangely in it. Um, I'm wearing no rimmed sunglasses.
Sorry. Sorry.
What?
Dandruff.
No, no. Bits of black. It's going darker again in places. It's weird. Anyway,
It's the moments dyeing your
honestly,
hair at
it's
night. That's
bloody
what it is.
blooming professionals. So, I have blue eyes, and not that anybody's probably noticed that much, but I now have a full complement of front teeth properly fitted.
And a lovely smile for anybody who's listening to this but not watching. I think we should move swiftly on to our other co host in the West Midlands. We're all in tears and we'll be coming on to that in a minute, particularly those of you with a Sheffield connection, Josh.
I'm not crying.
Uh, yeah, I am Josh Surgeonator. I'm one of the other hosts of Together Unlocked. And as Ju mentioned, I am a PhD research student in Sheffield, although remotely in Sheffield at the moment and have been for some time. I have kind of slightly messy blonde hair. If it looks like it's kind of hair that someone's ran their hand through all morning, that's because I have been running my hand through it all morning, kind of sitting at my desk and trying to get some work done. Um, I have blue eyes, slightly ginger beard, or a very ginger beard that's slightly grown, I should say. And I'm wearing a black jacket that says RGK and then Josh 4 underneath it.
And I know because I'm sitting in a wheelchair made by the same company. That is a wheelchair company, and one of the few actually I would wholeheartedly recommend. But I have corona cropped hennaed hair, self-inflicted, so a little bit moth-eaten. I've got black plastic glasses, black wrist braces, silver coloured jewelry, apart from a purple kind of gemstone necklace on a silver coloured chain, and that's in the shape of a whale's tail. And I have a long sleeved purple, mauve, lilac t-shirt. Julie's kind of
All of the above.
Julie's saying all of the above, which is not helpful at all. I've got olive skin and green eyes. Behind me is our Together 2012 graffiti banner, which has images of it, of all the art forms that we cover, both in our artistic program, which is led by disabled artists for everybody, and our year round creative development clubs program, which is aimed at disabled people and whoever they want to bring with them. So we can see images, I think, of musical notes, poetry and spoken word, theatre, but there's also in hot out of shot. We do dance, carnival art, street art, graffiti art, indeed, and many, many more things. And we'll be telling you a bit more later about how you can join in from home with some of those activities. Also, behind us is a small Winnie the Pooh, as imagined by Disney, teddy bear. He's taking part in our virtual bear hunt, and after 3:30, we will have our weekly Clockwork Paralympics to see which teddy bear has the right to wear a gold medal this week. Plastic in our case, but not in the Surgeoners. So I think we'll. Oh, and they have a bigger one, of course. They have a Winnie as well, so that's going to be an interesting race later. Oh, and it's just fallen off Robin's shoulders. But as I said, we had an extended update on Monday because of all the changes that have come into play. None of us can avoid them. As I said, we are all in tears, particularly Josh's friends who were foolish enough to believe the government and move back to Sheffield for the term time. And was there anything we wanted to follow up? I think there was one thing in particular. On Monday, we looked at the fact that you can still have visitors for mental health support and for social care. That's not always clear. A lot of the news sources are printing up the rules, but not including that, although the BBC, I think, is the only one that does. But if you rely on friends or family or both to provide mental health support or social care, you can still do that. There's lots more information on our highlights and links page on our website. I'm going to put that information up in a minute, but if you look at highlights and links, which is under the main page for Together Unlocked TV, there's a lot of detail from Monday about what you can do and where you can find out more information. But what we didn't talk about was support bubbles.
What we didn't talk about was who am I?
Actually, no.
Sorry, I had been overlooked.
Like I say, we're all in tears this week, aren't we? And I think you've actually, you should be right at the top as our chair, but you seem to have slipped. I have to apologise. I'm not even going to use the excuse of no short-term memory.
No, because I'm sitting right here in front of you. So there's no escape. The tears they're talking about, everybody, is TIERS, not TEARS. And that's very different. So when people are saying we're all in tears, we're not crying.
Well, yes and no. I think we've been saying that because actually it's impossible to wake up to new rules. As I found myself on Saturday in London without it impacting, I think, emotionally. But please do introduce yourself and audio describe.
I shall, absolutely. My name's Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. I have blah, blah, blah. I have gold and silver hair. I have dark rimmed glasses. I'm wearing a T-shirt which is quite familiar, simply because it ties in with the theme for poetry today. It's a black T-shirt and it's got in white a constellation of a cat looking up at stars and little meteors.
Thank you, Julie. Julie and I are in a support bubble, which means that we can travel between each other's homes and we can also stay overnight. In practice, of course, we've actually been living here in my live workspace, which is more work than anything else since March. But we are in a support bubble. If you're a single person, you can form a support bubble with a household of any size. So that might be another single person, which is obviously a really good way of providing support for each other, including a bit of help, if you're under the weather. But do it anyway. If you're a single person, identify a single person, a couple, or a group of friends who live together, create that support bubble. We are in it for the long haul. We were all chatting before we came on air, obviously not preparing quite enough instead. And it is likely to go on till the spring in some form. Many of the things that we're seeing coming in for tier 3 may be extended. It's much better to have these things arranged in advance, as indeed are emergency plans, which are another thing we talked about on Monday. And all of those details are on the highlights and links page. But But today is Poetry Day above all else. I mean, it's also Gaming, Sport and Paralympics Day, but that's after 3:30. So the Poetry Club is one of our clubs that we've restarted, not online, in fact, but by telephone. And what happens is our engagement support worker, Noel, phones anybody who wants to be part of the club up, gets everybody onto a group call by 10:30, when they sit down with a cup of tea and a biscuit, just like we would have done in the old days, but you have to provide it for yourself, and share poems that they've found or written earlier. Then we ring off, and everything on the call is at our expense. People write a poem on a chosen theme, and then we ring you back. And before 12 o'clock, people share the poems they've written. Then anybody who is generous enough to allow us to share these poems on the live stream in the afternoon, we do. So we're going to read you some in a minute. But first of all, what was this week's theme?
The theme this week was stars. Now, that could be whichever interpretation you want to put onto it. It could be a pop star, a boy band. It could be, because we were just talking about boy bands, it could be a star in the sky. And tonight, I thought it was actually quite fitting for today, because tonight is the best time to see the Orionids, which is the meteors which seem to come from the constellation Orion, which is over in the east of the sky. It mainly seems to come from the brightest star in Orion, which is Betelgeuse. There was a film made called Beetlejuice, I have to say, but it's not. It's only a story. It's not real.
I didn't know there was a star called Beetlejuice. So, what's the best time of night to see them?
They reckon towards midnight, from 10 o'clock onwards towards midnight. I know it's a bit difficult because we have something called the storm Barbara, which seems to be clouding the skies and bringing rain, etc., etc. But if it's possible to have a clear sky later on tonight, and sometimes that does happen, what NASA, the National Aeronautical Space Authority, say is to go outside for about 25 minutes before you want to see the things that you want to see, so that your eyes can adjust. Don't use your phone or have a light, but just let your eyes adjust to the natural light of the night. The meteor, blah blah blah, the little things that are falling in the sky, the meteor showers, are partly debris from Halley's Comet, which last came, I think, in 86. But it's little bits of debris from the various comets and asteroids and everything. It just falls into the atmosphere and makes lovely, lovely patterns.
And it links in very well with a sort of recurring theme on Mondays when we talk about film photography and performance, about all of the nature photography and filming you can do from home. You'd be very lucky to get this on video, but there's no reason not to try. So, can we hear some of the poems about stars?
Yeah, absolutely. We had well, we always have a nice group, but we were able to bring you today. I'm going to start off with a poem called Star by Crystal Peasy. Stars glow in the dark, and they are gold and silver. There are many different colors, and a lot of them are big and small and come up different shapes and sizes. The stars shine so beautifully in the sky. They are so pretty in many ways, so bright and so shiny and so glistening. Also, like them, there are special girls. They also gleam when they glow in the dark. They are amazing and interesting.
Oh, that's wonderful, and I think Crystal is very much one of those special girls. And I know
Definitely.
you wrote two poems, didn't you? So can we hear one of yours next?
I did. The first one was an exasperation at trying to get everything to rhyme. So it's called Starlight, Star Bright. Starlight, star bright, I search for you in the dark of night, looking up near and far. Where is that pesky northern star?
And all of these poems will be on the highlights and links page later today. Robin, I know you and Josh have got poems from Dwayne Bryan and Glory Sengo. Should we have one of yours and then we'll come back to London for a poem?
Yes, so this is a piece by Glory Sango titled Stars. I love to see the stars in the sky early in the morning. So I went outside with a torch, looking up at the sky and feeling so tired. So I went back to sleep again.
Brief and very much to the point. So, this is from Dawn Barber and it's called Stars in the Sky. The stars in the sky are watching over me, bringing me new opportunities and new doors opening up, filling my heart with so many things, showing me the way to a new galaxy in the sky that sparkles way up high. So, thank you, Dawn. Um, Julie, you've got a second poem, haven't you?
I do. I was quite struck with the thought of earthly stars and heavenly stars. So the second one is called Stars. The woman paused, raised her hands, triumphant in the light of her glory. The people stomp their feet, shout her name, loud in appreciation, loving her story. Lost in her glamour, they stood in the stands. She soaked it up, hungry for fame. The stars shone bright that night, flickering lights that sped over time, and time never still, but always moving, sped on. Yet still those constants shine, guiding the sailors onward by their light, ever pushing, ever striving, ever roving.
Oh, that was lovely as always. And I think, Robin, you've got one from Dwayne Bryan.
I have indeed, yeah. This one is called Autumn Stars, so thank you, Dwayne. When the seasons come, everything changes. Leaves fall and there's a chill in the air. Somewhat cold, somewhat bare. You know there's a chill in the air and wonder if it will snow this year. When the frost shows, my toes go cold. Winter. Winter is not so bad. So cover yourself up and don't be sad.
Great, thanks, Dwayne, and very much to the point as always. So we've got more poetry to talk about, but first, Julie, I wanted to know what's the theme for next week, and how can people join in from home?
The theme for next week is the sea, which is as long or as short as you want to make it. The best way for people to join in from home who aren't already part of the group is to contact Noel at together2012.org.uk, and Noel will sort you out and get a phone number. You do need a landline.
All right, no, that wasn't what I meant. What I meant was if somebody wants to write a poem on the theme at home, we'll come on to how you can actually join the club. But we do.
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Yes, we do put the theme up on the highlights and links page and also on social media. Yes, I mean, I think the easiest way is simply to send your poems to info@together2012.org.uk and just put Pop Up Poetry Club or some such into the subject heading. I'm just going to put that website address onto the screen for you now, but that's www.together2012.org.uk for more information, and then send it to us at info@together2012.org.uk. But now, let me ask you, if somebody wants to actually join the group, which means not committing to doing every week, because we've never operated like that. You know, we're not an institution, very much far from it. We're not educators. We believe that everybody's got something to learn, everybody's got something to teach. So these are very much facilitated groups. But we do ask for a sort of fairly regular commitment, you know, maybe 3 out of 4, just for the sake of everybody else in the group. So if somebody wants to join in, they need to be, well, they need to identify as disabled, but we do define that very, very broadly. If you have a physical impairment, a health condition, including a mental health condition, a learning difficulty, we don't ask for any proof. It's entirely up to you. But the club's program is targeted at people who just don't get the same opportunities anywhere else. But you can join in from anywhere else in the UK. We're not funded, unfortunately, to pay for foreign calls as yet. So, what do people do, Julie?
They contact Noel and he speaks to them. Sorry, I feel as if I've gone back in a little circlet. effectively, Noel will phone everybody up.
So Noel's the engagement support worker, and Noel's role is to introduce everybody to the club's program. And I believe, we also, if you're part of our club's program, we offer a kind of wraparound service. So Noel is also able to sort out access needs that you might require to join in with the group. And that can be something, for example, having somebody else to write for you. We do have blind and visually impaired members who find it much easier if they can just dictate to somebody on another phone call, or stay on the phone and dictate to Noel as part of their writing, for example. Noel also offers a kind of ongoing support if people need it from the club's program. But I've never actually known how to pronounce Noel's surname.
Gwynon.
Gwynon. So that's Noel Gwynon. But anything that comes to info@together2012.org.uk will get forwarded on. So you don't have to worry about whose name is who, but I'll put that up on the highlights and links page. One of the other things we wanted to talk about today with the Pop Up Poetry Club is our poetry challenge to everybody at home. We're going to tell you a little bit more about that in a video I'm going to play at around 3:30, which will tell you more about the Join In From Home programme in general. But what we're doing is publishing an anthology next month of poems on the subject of together. And that can be any kind of poem and any kind of interpretation. The anthology is called Together 2020. We'll be publishing it in print form and digitally, but everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book posted out to them, and will be able to buy further copies at cost, cost only. So that's quite an incentive if you want to see your name in print and perhaps have that book to give to somebody as a present over the winter holidays. I've got one poem. We've been reading out some of the entries that we've had so far, and this one is from Ellen Goody. Ellen has sent us in some of her songs before, and this is called Together Forever. Together we're strong. Together we can make it. The sun is shining in the sky. The birds are singing in the sky. Children are playing and going to school. We made that happen together. We are best friends together forever. Thank you, Ellen. I thought that was very bright, and on a stormy kind of grey day where half the country plus are waking up to restrictions, and the people in Cornwall are dreading half term with everybody with their viruses coming down to the southwest. I think it's nice to just be reminded of indeed our own slogan, which is together we are strong, together we can change our world. And it's only this year that I think we've been more grateful than ever before that we are indeed just called together. And as we always say, that's what we do. We mean what we say. We're here to change our world, and we're here to do it together. Did anybody else have comments that they wanted to make about the poems?
No, yes, sorry. Start with no, and I have. Just that it's. I mean, it's great to see the continued involvement. And it's just hearing different voices, and obviously for those of us that are regulars on the show, you do start to learn more about the individual poets, which is quite an interesting thing. So you kind of not you don't know what you're going to expect from them, but you get to start to see how they see the world, and their relationship with the world, which is really, I think that's really interesting. So seeing and the differences, the difference that each of the poets brings of their perception, but then we're building up these pictures of the poets, which I think is fantastic, and it's pictures from listening to the words, so no visuals are needed.
Yes, I'm very excited with our forthcoming Together 2020 Disability History Month Festival, which is called Making History. We announced the programme live on the show last week. That's all up on the website address as below, www.together2012.org.uk. On Thursday, the 26th of November from 7 o'clock, we're going to be combining with Survivors Poetry, which is an organisation that's been established for decades, hasn't it? And, is the leading, if you like, disabled people's poetry organisation, although it's focused around survivors of the mental health system. They usually run a monthly cafe at the Poetry Cafe in Covent Garden, which is operated by the Poetry Society. But at the moment, of course, they're doing everything on Zoom, which has been great for somebody like me because there's no blue badge parking in Covent Garden. So we're going to be hooking up with them. We're going to have some of their regulars. We're going to have some of the guest poets that have performed with us over the years. But also, we're going to have opportunities for our poets from the Pop Up Poetry Club to perform really to a wider audience for the first time. So I'm really excited about that. All of the details are on the website, but essentially everything through the festival, which runs for more than 4 weeks, is free. For that kind of event, we have we have a ticketed side and an unticketed side. You'll be able to switch on YouTube and watch absolutely everything without having to book at all. If you want to take an active part in an event, so there might be a question and answer session for artists, you might want to do an open mic spot, then we're going to have Zoom tickets, and all of that information is coming up shortly. But you should literally just be able to put YouTube on your TV and watch everything from there. So, as I said, the poetry event is going to be great, but there's going to be much, much more. And on our final day, on the end of festival party on the 11th of December, then we're going to be launching and celebrating the Together 2020 anthology along with the Together 2020 open exhibition. And there's a page per event on the website now, so you can find out far more information than was even there last week. But finally, I should say we also welcome sign poems and indeed poetry films. We'll only be able to link the films themselves to the digital version, but we are able, as with our previous anthology, to take sign poems in photographs with an English translation underneath as well. And Stella Plurger from our associate drama company, Act Up Newham, has written a new poem which is called Walking in the Dark. So I'm going to play that next. Well, assuming the system allows it.
Walking in the dark by Stara. Walking in the wood in the dark. I'm happy. I hear the birds in the trees. I hear the sheep. I hear the wind in the trees. I hear the owl. I see the light in the trees. I'm walking the dog in the dark. I'm happy.
Ju, something that strikes me sort of from listening to the other people's poems and listening to Stera's poem is how remarkable it is that everybody's been able to stay happy and to stay positive. It really comes over very, very strongly to me.
And I think I think we should be clear that everybody has their bad times, and that's absolutely fine too. But our message from the start has been, if you stay home and stay creative, that is the best way to stay well. And I think all of us have benefited from that. So Stella, as regular viewers will know, was living in, she will be returning, living in her own home with Hannah, but it was a first floor flat with just a balcony for the assistance dog. So since the summer, they've been in a barn in the middle of Norfolk, in the middle of nowhere. In fact, I could hear the rain on the roof through that poem. We would have had another contribution today to celebrate Black History Month, which was a profile of ACT UP member Grace Fundu. But all of the data that's coming to us from ACT UP is actually coming from a router attached to the roof of a shed in a campsite. And it just wasn't able to handle the data today because of Storm Barbara. So we'll be showing that on Friday. But what we do every Wednesday is have a little bit of time out with what we call, slightly tongue-in-cheek, virtual nature watch. For a long time, and no doubt again, what we were doing was sending Julie's assistance dog Precious out into my backyard, because given the size of the yard and the social distancing issues with the neighbours, we weren't really able to use the garden ourselves, just see what it looked like from the camera on Precious. But at the moment, all of us as viewers are exploring the area around the barn in Norfolk through the eyes of Merlot, Stara's assistance dog. So I'm going to put Merlot on now, and I'm going to get Julie, as always, to do a little bit of audio description. I should have audio described, and I do apologise, Stara's film, but it's essentially Stara sitting at home signing in front of a white wall and a white door, and there wasn't really anything more to it than that, or I would have done it at the beginning. So this is Merlot.
Well, hey, you can see those clouds, and Merlot is galloping, actually. The landscape's going up and down. The fields are quite brown. There's trees in the background, and he's walking on a path which looks a little bit muddy. His head is just popped up, so he's turned around and just made sure his people are right behind him. He's paused again, standing and looking the other way, off to the left. He's come back to his people, and I think gosh, it's awfully muddy. There's lots of puddles. He doesn't seem to mind. He's trotting past them at speed again. He's really enjoying himself. Just making sure they're there, turning back. These dear little ears silhouetted against the sky, and off he goes again. He does move at speed, but he does get a little bit anxious, I think, stopping, and then he's had a little shake, just stopping to make sure the people are there. And on he goes. He's very intrepid. The skies are so heavy and grey. There's a little bit of light up ahead, but Merlot's just turned off to the left. The field has been harvested, so it's a bit sort of manky with stalks and brownness around it. Everything's actually quite brown. There is, as I say, there's plentiful puddles, and I think Merlot's going to say Merlot's decided to go home now, but no, Merlot goes on, intrepid to the last, and he must be moving at some considerable speed because the landscape is bumping up and down. Although the trees are getting bigger, they are moving phenomenally. Oh my goodness, that path looks awfully muddy. He doesn't seem to mind in the slightest, though, because he's really up for it. He's going ahead, he's moving into the field, and he's found a bit of grass. And this is where he stopped.
Oh, bless him. He was having a lovely time, wasn't
He
he?
was. I bet his paws were awfully mucky afterwards, though.
Yes, I think, well, it's yet more things, I should say, for Hannah and Stara to do, because, of course, they're organising all of the ACT UP rehearsals on Monday. We saw the first of their reporting films on the piece they're producing for us for the festival. And they're working with a group in Chile to do that. So that's an awful lot of internet work over the roof of a shed on a campsite. But that's the wonder of modern communication. But what I'm going to do now is put on another short video, this time to tell you more about how you can join in from home. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website, together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page, where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. All of our activities can be enjoyed by families at home, but we also have some of our favourite activities here from our family activity days, which we usually hold in the school holidays. Card making with pens, stickers, and paper is also popular. You can show someone you're thinking of them by making them a special card, and if it can't be delivered safely, then send a photograph with a personal message or keep it till later. Here we have instructions for making a sock puppet, a storage jar or night light, or a lunchbox or storage box, all of which are really popular with our family activity days. And you can click on each of these links to get full instructions. So with the sock puppet, for example, you have lots of instructions with photographs to show you exactly what to do. Same with the storage jar. And same with the lunchbox or storage box. And you can see how effective it is just to use very, very simple techniques. Everyone is completely unique. The Pop-Up Poetry Club meets on a Wednesday morning. We also run regular poetry projects and poetry cafes. We're inviting you to write or sign a poem on the theme of Together and send it to us to share on social media. We're also going to be publishing an anthology of the Together poems in November, and everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book. And I just wanted to add after that we also have an extra program for children and young people, and there's further details on the website. It's mostly social media based, so they're working across Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter, of which I'm not familiar with all of those things personally, but Hazel Brill, the international artist and our part-time youth development worker, is. Hazel is also running an arts award program, which is open to any young person who's being homeschooled or otherwise isn't in school at the moment. We've had to make that kind of limitation because by opening it up from East London to the whole of the UK, we have to restrict the workload on Hazel somehow. So, but if you're interested in the Arts Award, contact us anyway. Usual email address info@together2012.org.uk, and we'll put you in touch with somebody local that can help. But now it is time, I believe. Do tell me if I'm wrong, for our Clockwork Paralympics. Are you also competing a Winnie the Pooh?
We are.
Which wins?
Yes, we're back to the dreadful sort of puns. Ours is a sort of little fluffy second-hand one, which I have to say I actually borrowed from the dog because although I've got lots of teddy bears, it was nice to kind of have something new, which means it came from a charity shop because you're not allowed to resell second-hand toys to children, but you can to dogs. Did yours come from Disneyland?
To be honest, I think he came on his own.
I only say that because households with young people tend to be more likely to have got these things straight from Disney. So, today's race, we have two quite familiar competitors back, being Clockwork Caterpillars. I'm not going to tell you which colour is in which hand. The racetrack has also changed back slightly due to an unfortunate lighting failure in the studio. So they're back racing on the landing, but over a rug, just to give it a little bit more, well, change of surface because the surgeon is in what should be a game of chance for winning about 2/3 of the things. So they'd gone to a lot of trouble to work out things like the track. So we've got Winnie against Winnie. Josh, who will then take over for our sports and gaming report, is also going to do the audio description stroke commentary.
So we have our two competitors, and they are now off on a lovely white, blue, and green rug. They
Now,
appear to us.
I should have told you, Josh. I realised you hadn't made a choice.
No, he hadn't. Nobody's made a choice, Chu.
You know, this is obviously going to be one of those days, but I have to say before they go any further, left or right hand?
Right hand. We'd already made that decision.
No, I'll
Yes.
accept that because you usually do. All right, in that case, I shall mute myself and start again. Well, not start again. I will put it back on.
So they are continuing along their path at a very vigorous pace.
Snail pace.
Yeah. I can't actually tell you who's in the lead. I think it's the orange. I'm not entirely sure because they appear to be somewhat level from this angle.
The orange is cutting up the green.
Yeah, they've gone for a slightly dirty move there with the cutting across.
Oh, we lost again,
No, we didn't. We
Josh.
won. So right hand was the orange one. It was.
Did they cross over
Yeah, the orange one cut across.
from behind? We need to rush that again.
Go
We
on.
need to adjudicate.
I
that.
was going to say,
I
I
hope you're not
was going to
serious.
talk about our integrity, that we didn't change our decision.
They want to
Green one, because the green one's faster. We stuck with orange, and that was good because orange won. So
So I'm going to just pop this back on the screen so we can work out which was in my right hand and which was in my left hand. I know what I think I was holding.
we picked the right hand. The right hand is the orange one.
No.
No, it's not, Josh.
We said right hand side of the screen. That's what we agreed
No,
before.
right hand, left hand.
I did.
No, we said right hand.
You didn't,
left
and I
hand.
said no. Right hand,
I'm going to have to
the screen, left hand, please.
No, I'm afraid, Josh, that if we look back at previous occasions, it's always the hand and not the side of the screen, purely because we all kept falling out over which side of the screen was the right.
I won. Robin lost.
The main thing is,
You won.
either
So it's a 3-1 success, and Robin can fail all by himself.
the difficulty when you've got artists in East London and Paralympians as stroke artists in the West Midlands is you can get them to take something quite seriously that's really a bit of a joke, but they do tend to take it a bit too seriously. But like I say, Winnie the Pooh has a medal, so I'm going to give my Winnie over. I should say my assistant dog's Jazz's Winnie over to Julie. And give her my gold plastic medal from the council from 2012 to wear.
It was a bit of a win-win, really, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was for the dog as well because he went off with a couple of pairs of my socks and I went off with his teddy bear.
Poor old Jazzy.
But he won't get the medal when he gets the teddy bear back. So our Winnie will be wearing the medal for the next week. And
I won.
Josh and Robin will be falling out again later.
Robin lost, but that's fine.
Okay, yes, fine. All right, Josh. So
Very competitive at this end of the sofa.
Oh, we're not at all here.
No. Yes, well, I mean, artists are pretty competitive as well, but I believe we had this conversation on Monday about how much in common artists and scientists have, even if we weren't recruiting you from science over to the arts. So we're going to hand over to you now, Josh, and you can do gaming and sport, and you're in charge.
Yes. So we'll go with sport first. Why not? So we talked a little bit last week about that the ISL, or the International Swimming League, was coming back. So that started on Friday, and that is running for the next six or 7 weeks, I think. So it's on kind of every weekend. And we talked about any of the London teams' matches are all available on BBC Sport. And we couldn't link to that because BBC Sport hadn't yet kind of created the page in order to give the link. But since that first match has now happened, that page now exists. So that will be going into the highlights and links page for today. If anyone that didn't see it over the weekend, you can re-watch it or bookmark it if you do want to watch it in the future.
So we won't tell you the
Yeah, we won't
results.
tell you who won.
Can I just ask a question, Josh? Which is really picking up with my poor memory from a couple of weeks ago. You were saying that swimming is now a very different sport to watch visually than it used to be.
Yes. So the kind of whole purpose of the ISL is to kind of make swimming a bit sexier in terms of its kind of TV presence. Um, so it doesn't have kind of heats and finals. There's no worrying about kind of you get points depending on where you finish. So it's less about the time and more about who finishes first. Even though that is time, you don't get all of the times and kind of there's not lots of numbers and things like that. It's just first gets 9 points, second gets 7, and so on. But it's also, there's kind of huge LED screens with kind of animated logos and kind of giant, 30-foot men behind them, and it's all kind of
Yeah,
Americanized, I guess, but
and
in a good way.
and we need to get our star pad DJs to watch, because whether they want to see the swimming or not, the live DJ is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
the DJ is incredible. Not just in kind of the skill of the DJing, but the kind of the artistry in it, and he's kind of doing things behind his back and under his leg and all sorts of stuff.
It does sound absolutely fascinating. And of course, this is one of the reasons that we cover sport, because as with games, there's so much creativity and so many artistic careers, not least in terms of merchandising and sets and outfits and everything else. So, what else have you got for us?
And then the other thing in sport that I wanted to talk about is that the Six Nations, which is rugby union, is restarting this weekend. So this weekend is Ireland versus Italy, which is a match that should have been played in March and got delayed. I mean, they also have been played in March, but it was the one that didn't get played in the kind of round of matches. So that's this weekend, and then the actual kind of tournament itself kicks off again next weekend, and that'll run for the next kind of few weeks. I think there's kind of two rounds left, I think. But for those kind of rugby fans, that's starting back up again, which will be quite nice.
I think because it's going to be wet and slippy, it makes it more fun as well.
Yeah, it could be some. It's always entertaining to watch rugby players in the rain when they just kind of fall over a lot and drop the ball.
I mean, I would
Literally
say
and
this
figuratively.
I would say this was awfully tragic because, of course, various rugby players end up breaking their necks. But I remember hanging out with a Paralympic rugby player who said he woke up from his accident surrounded by members of the Paralympic team ready to recruit him before he'd even started to recover. I just think they're poor wives and girlfriends.
That's for wheelchair rugby, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Mm.
Once they get into rugby, they just carry on. And I just thought how awful to know that before you've even kind of rebonded with your partner, they've just joined a rugby team in a wheelchair. So yes, it is fun to watch.
I mean, we joke about it all the time. About you hear about someone having an accident, you think, well, what sport are they going to be good at for Paralympics?
Yes, well, you do because you're Paralympians. We have slightly different reactions, but that's what makes life interesting. So, what's happening on gaming, Josh?
So in gaming, the two things that I wanted to talk about, the Xbox app for iPhones, at least, I don't know about Android, has just been updated with something called Remote Play. So it means you can now kind of play your Xbox on your phone. So I tried that out this morning, and all you basically kind of link through Bluetooth, link your controller up to your phone, like you would a kind of pair of headphones or a speaker or anything like that. And then you literally it then puts it on your phone screen and the sound comes out of there. So you can play away from the TV. Mainly, it's kind of for me, it's a benefit that if I need the loo halfway through, I could just take my phone with me and I don't have to stop playing.
It's that generational thing again, isn't it? That 3 ages. Well, we've got 4 ages of shielding, but 2 of them are back in school. So, one age group, two presenters. But Yeah, we'll just have to kind of leave it as age-related difference, Josh.
Yeah. I think probably a more practical use would probably be, you know, if you have one television that the kind of Xbox is plugged into, you don't have to fight anymore over who gets to watch the TV and who gets to play Xbox. You can turn your Xbox on, um, and then go and sit in another room or kind of sit elsewhere and play it on your phone while somebody else watches something on the TV.
I was going to say, I can't believe that that Microsoft wouldn't have put it on Android if they've already given it to Apple.
Yeah, I don't know whether purely not having an Android phone, I have no idea what they do.
Sounds to me like it's another, because we've been, Judy and I are kind of very much still very much at the beginning of learning to use a PlayStation, kind of several months in. But when we've been talking in terms of Christmas recommendations, if you unaccountably do have extra money because you've still got a job but nowhere to go, then the Xbox is still winning out over the PlayStation, isn't it? Partly or mostly at the moment because the subscription games available are so much better for the price. So it's much cheaper to continue with an Xbox, but it has also got some other things that just put it that bit ahead of the curve. Although, as you say, your recommendation is still never buy the latest model, wait till something new is about to come out and then get the one beforehand. There will be at least £100 off. So, yeah, if you're saving up for the winter holiday, I would bear that in mind as well.
Yeah, I think that definitely applies for things like kind of phones and laptops. I think with Xboxes and games consoles, because there is such a time difference between iterations, if you can afford the newer one, it's probably more worthwhile. Or at least the most recently updated one. For
Yeah,
example,
I think an updated
8 years, I think, since the last Xbox. So there will be a significant jump in technology.
Yeah, maybe you were just talking about PlayStation then, because I remember us definitely saying the 4 is going to be better value. And I have to say, partly having bought a 4, the updated 4, everything. I mean, I didn't realize how much extra. Well, how much extra you had to buy, and you think, well, if it needs an extra fan before you've even started, why doesn't it just have an adequate fan in it? So again, I don't regret getting PlayStation because Julie likes the PlayStation games, but I think if I was starting from scratch with no considerations at all, the Xbox is still winning. So have you got any games that are going particularly well this week, or new games?
I'm actually playing an old game at the moment. That I picked up through the Game Pass subscription we were just talking about. But we're kind of getting into the season now when all the kind of big, expensive, in terms of extensively made games are coming out. Basically, it's the run up to Christmas. So all of the kind of the big title games come out around this time of year, so that people then buy them as Christmas presents. It's kind of how the summer works for films. You get those kind of summer blockbusters. Kind of October, November is that period for computer games. So there's some really kind of big title games coming out in the next kind of month or so that I'm quite looking forward to. Kind of potentially looking at purchasing and playing. But yeah, at the moment I'm playing things for free on that subscription service, because I don't really need to buy any new ones, because there's such an array of stuff on there that I don't need to spend £80 on a new game. I can download it for free and kind of spend many hours doing that.
Well, I'm still waiting for somebody. I've dropped the hint for at least 3 years, as I don't play the computer at all. But there is a game that you could that works on the Xbox, where you plug an electric guitar into it, and it teaches you to play like lots of posh song, like so it's a learn the guitar thing, and it's called Rock something or other. So
Well, I think people forget how many other things you can do with consoles. I was looking at some research about how young people who who are having to work from home, and obviously that was all of them until September. The different devices they were using, and quite a number were accessing the internet through their games console, and that was the only way they were able to study, either because there was no computer at home, only a console, or there weren't enough computers at home. There was another story that came out a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure if it was the Xbox. I don't know if you saw this, Josh, about countries with censorship. Le- the console actually contains a huge library of free books, and because it's within the console, it's hidden from the censors who take the websites down. I don't know whether that's the equivalent of Project Gutenberg, because every single book in the world ever being published that's out of copyright is available through this website called Project Gutenberg, which we will also put on the highlights and links page. So I don't know which books they are, but I just thought that was an absolutely fascinating way of getting around the censors by embedding literature in computer games. And we always sort of think of those as being the opposite to books. Why don't you switch it off and read a book? But this is the passport to all these books, which I thought was incredible. Did you see that story, Julie?
No, I didn't. I was just thinking, tells you to switch it off and read a book. Sounds like your mother.
Well, I think there's many younger people understand that. Yes, switch it off and read a book.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's parental guidance, isn't it? Stop it.
Yes, I remember. Unfortunately, well, I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, so then it was simply a question of taking the TV aerial cable away, and they didn't really have to tell you anything else. Well,
we
at
didn't
least
have a TV. So.
yes, and you didn't have a TV. Oh, we all grew up in cardboard boxes, so Josh doesn't know he's born.
Yeah, I haven't seen that story. I know that certain games have issues with countries like that because lots of games have kind of political subversive storylines in them, so they don't want them because they don't portray those countries in a very good light. But no, I hadn't seen that specific story that you were talking about, Joe.
Well, we're coming slowly towards the end of the program, so we will look that up. If I can find it, then I will embed it in highlights and links as well. We often talk, but I think we should start maybe looking in a bit more detail about all these creative careers. And I think this, we've looked at all the games designers and artists and so on, but I think the storytelling is just fascinating because it's non-linear, isn't it? There's all sorts of different pathways through the story. There's all sorts of different ways it can end. So for writers, it's just a fascinating area, and it would be great to find out a bit more about how not just young people, but people retraining. I think a career in games might be much more interesting than cybersecurity. So yes, if you're feeling that you're being forced to move to move careers, then yeah, let's have a little look at that in the next couple of weeks. Coming up on Friday, we've got our dressing up to go out to stay in feature. All of us dress up to go out to stay in, whether that's to do something real that's available online or on the TV over the weekend, or something wholly imaginary like Julie's trip to the moon to have tea with the Clangers a couple of weeks ago. I'm really excited about the potential to dress up to go out to stay in for our festival. I really do encourage you, while enjoying it from the comfort of your own home, to dress up for at least one of our events. Send us your pictures and videos and we will show them on the live stream. But in the meantime, for this Friday, we'd love any pictures and videos you have of you dressed up to go out to stay in, or indeed if you've managed to find a way through the tiers to properly go out and still hook up with other households. Show us yourself dressed up to go out but we'll be staying in. Also on Friday, we have our feature Something for the Weekend. So if you're not sure what to do at the weekend from home, we'll have lots of suggestions of things that are available online or offline. We'll also be looking at visual arts, and we will have a profile of actor and singer Grace Fundu as part of our Black History Month celebrations. Grace is a member of Act Up Newham, our associate drama company, so she will already be a familiar face to regular viewers. And I'm really fascinated to know more about Grace myself. What did you guys have to add?
Thank you for being here. It's been lovely. It's been a nice show, and we really appreciate you watching.
Yes, and a shout out to Blake Jarrett Gibbons, who
Hooray, yes.
came on the live stream to say the live show is now being shared on the Disabled People's channel, or the Disabled Persons channel. The Disabled Persons channel is a website with streaming in its own right, so I'm very interested to hear that. And I should say anybody is welcome to embed the recordings of our shows. What we do is we put in a temporary link to the raw recording from YouTube on our website as soon as the show is over. That does have about a minute of white footage that you need to scroll past. By 7 o'clock this evening, an edited version will be up, including the captions, although then YouTube takes a couple of hours to process them. And those shows remain embedded on the website and on YouTube. But it's always best to watch the uploaded, recorded versions because they've just got slightly better audio, and we take out the sort of the visual changeovers as much as possible in order to stop anybody having a seizure, because clearly we can't control exactly how flashy these changes are when they come out through the internet. We use a platform called Be Live, which is great, but again, as regular viewers know, it's slightly got a mind of its own. So I'll look forward to seeing everybody on Friday, and it's final words from the West Midlands.
Yeah, well, everyone have a nice couple of days. Hopefully, you're not going to get too wet. And if a contact I've made comes through, I might have a new visual artist to have some work shown from.
Yes, that would be brilliant. And if anybody has any paintings, pictures, photographs they want to send in, again, it's info@together2012.org.uk, and we'll look forward to seeing you at 3 o'clock on Friday.